All right, welcome everybody around the world. Welcome to all my subscribers. Just a quick and quite amazing update. I didn't expect to see, I didn't expect that I would see any of those mystery drones or UAP lights starting to appear over where I live. Um, Anything could happen, but I didn't really expect it to occur. And they've been occurring up in America and various other places around the world for the last few weeks, pretty much a month now. Um, But the other night, I think about 2 nights ago, there was like an appearance. Someone in my family told me about it and showed me a video, and supposedly a lot of people saw this activity. So I have to find out more about it. I don't know if it was just this one sighting, like this one like thing that was taking place up in the sky that people filmed from different angles or whatnot, or if there were more than one event taking place that evening. Um, but when the family member told me, I was, all excited and a little bit nervous. Like, what is that? Because nobody knows what's really going on with all of this. We can only hope for the best. Um, when I went home that night, I got off my bike, looked up in my yard. I have a great view of the evening sky and the stars. And almost instantaneously, there was a little spherical, aka orb, UFO way up high. None of the ones that I'm about to detail came down low or were low. And none of them were showing off multicolored lights or anything like that. They were all just little spheres way up high. And so almost instantaneously, looking up, I saw one moving way up high and it was moving slowly. And I know that sometimes you can see satellites, but satellites move on a fixed path. They don't always reflect light. Sometimes they do. You can usually tell the difference between a satellite and a UFO based on the movements and stuff that it makes. If the UFO moves in a straight path, just like a satellite would, and it resembles a satellite, then it's harder to tell which one it is. So basically, I saw 7 of these things, all very similar looking, just little spheres way up high, luminous spheres or orbs. I saw 7 of them in the span of, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 minutes or so. I wasn't watching the clock, but I just sat out there for a few minutes before going inside the house. And it was almost like every direction that I looked in, if I just waited a few seconds, I would spot them moving. So a total of 7 in a short time span and going in different directions. At one point, there was one going this way while another one went that way. Um, but some of the highlights of the 7, one of them, so I ran in and got my flashlight real quick, but unfortunately, my flashlight was low power. So I don't even know if it could be seen or not from the sky. But just for the heck of it, I got my flashlight out and did a few pulses of light to see if I could get any attention, which has worked for me in the past, saving some interesting stories for now. So I got the flashlight out, did some signals just up at some night sky with stars. I didn't, at this point here, I wasn't shining it up at something moving. I just did a signal. As soon as I did the signal, like instantaneously, one of the stars that were parked in the sky just started moving. Like I witnessed it full on. Like it was still. I didn't see it moving. I did the flashes and then it started moving. Like almost as if in response or coincidentally at the same time in response to my light. But it started moving and accelerating slowly. So we could rule out a satellite for that. Satellites don't do that. And this one here, when it started moving, it flared up. So they all looked like luminous orbs or little spheres way up high. But this one, like, it pulsed, like one pulse where it flared up in its light intensity, very like, like softly, just like a whoo, and it was moving. So I saw that. That was pretty cool. And another one that was moving in the other direction. I just watched it as it kept going, kept going, kept going. When it got over where the Pleiades constellation was, so obviously it wasn't in the Pleiades constellation because that's very far away. But to my perspective, it kept flying till I got in the Pleiades constellation, and then it just stopped. Again, satellites don't do this, and it didn't. None of these things that I saw had any type of aircraft warning lights. None of them. They were just spheres. Uh, they weren't close enough where I could see their actual shape, but from what I could tell, they're just little bright spheres up in the sky. So that one parked in the Pleiades cluster. from my perspective, and I couldn't tell where it went because then it just looked like a star again. So a total of 7 of them. Those were the 2 most spectacular ones. I didn't see any doing any crazy maneuvering, but some of them, as you watch them move, they almost like veer a bit. They don't go in a dead straight path. So again, even if a few of them were satellites, they were not all satellites. And the odds of that, like I usually go up and look at the stars, but it's not every night. But this night here, the only reason I stopped at that time to look up was because I just heard the stories from the night before. So, like calling the bluff, like a litmus test, when I look up in that 5 or 10 minute span, I saw 7 spherical orb like UFOs flying around. So that's pretty. Kitty, be quiet, please. So I don't know what to say. Like something big could be coming, a good thing, a bad thing, or a mixture of both, a good and bad thing that's coming in one big event. But all I can say is that something must be coming because, I don't live in a very important place whatsoever. There's nothing important here. So, in America, they're saying, I always got to do that, cat. Cat always meows when I start the video. So I don't live in an important place. There's no like military installations, no nuclear power plants, nothing like that where I live, anywhere near, like within hundreds of miles of where I live. So it makes absolutely no sense why, if this is some foreign nation doing surveillance and stuff, like why would they even bother going to where I live? At least up in New York and New Jersey and California, there's a lot of big facilities or military installations and stuff, right, and such. So if they're going to journey all the way out to where I am in the boondocks, so to speak, it just makes you wonder, like, what in the world is going on? Like, some big thing must be happening. But the craziest story that I have about what we're seeing here now is the night that the events took place and people were seeing it and filming it. I found out that my friend who's visiting from overseas, he actually saw it. Now, he doesn't even believe in UFOs. I think he might believe in extraterrestrials, but he doesn't believe that they are able to visit the Earth and whatever. He says they would need to be interdimensional if they're doing that due to the physics and possibilities, whatever, right? But so he doesn't even believe in UFOs. And I didn't really bore him with the details of the mystery drone scenario. I just gave him some tidbits about what was going on because he's not from the US. So, anyways, he was outside the other night when all this occurred. He saw the event take place himself. And not only that, but he recorded it and he showed me the video. So I've seen more than one video now. And that's just awesome that, someone so close to me was direct witness to this. So the video that I saw that he showed me that he took was way better and more impressive and mystifying than the other one I'd seen that was taken by somebody else. So in his video, looking up at the sky, I mean, these were massive. This is what it looked like. Massive orbs, almost like the size of the sun up in the sky, just bright, luminous orbs. More than one. There was like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 at times. And what it looked like was giant luminous orbs, huge, like the size of the sun, 3 or 4 of them up in the sky. There was at least 2, probably 3, maybe 4. And there's a light cover of cloud like virtually everywhere. These lights, or whatever they were, appeared to be above that layer of cloud. And my impression looking at it is that there was things up there flying around above the clouds that were emitting light. And what we're witnessing down on the ground, looking up at it, that's what we're witnessing, like the light that they're radiating as they fly around. But it's the maneuvers that they are making. I mean, this wasn't like, oh, let's just fly in a straight line or let's just hover still. These things were purposefully and artfully maneuvering around, like just swirling, like they're showing off, like it was an air show. But they're giant luminous orbs, like that look like the sun. And just above the clouds, they were so bright that through the light cloud cover that was underneath them, like a sheet of light thin cloud, you could fully see what looked like suns just like swirling around, like profusely and artfully, like swooping and swirling. And they were so luminous that as the orb it like swept around and moved. It had like a trail of light behind it, like a wisp and a trail of light. And it was almost like a paintbrush effect. They were just swooping around like this here, and not in fixed patterns like over and over, but like just completely random and artfully, like they're showing off. And he told me, he said, and I have no reason to doubt him based on what I just saw in his video. And he's like, "What?" And it's not. This is what he said to me. It's not even what you just see in this clip. He said, like, it was even crazier than that. This is just what I recorded. He said, like, one or two of the big orb looking things, like, instead of flying around in that one area that they seem to be focused in, like they would swoop out of that area and come like swooping over his direction, like, like delineating from their little area and just like going off out of the perimeter to show off further. And it, like he said, it appeared to just like fly over and then swoop back around and went back over to there. So I mean, this is highly irregular. Now I wondered if they could be spotlights, because allegedly there's a video clip of spotlights being used. But from what I saw in the video, those spotlights were on the different, like the other side, like in a complete different compass direction. And there's just no way that if those spotlights physically couldn't point in the other direction due to the terrain and the landscape of where we live. It's just impossible. Like if what my friend had seen was on the southern side, then it's possible it could have been spotlights, one could argue. But because what he saw was on the northern side, it's not possible. And again, I don't even know if that spotlight video is real, or if people are just using an old clip to troll people and say, oh, it wasn't, or if it's a cover up, you know what I mean? I never saw a date on the spotlight clip, so I have no reason to believe that they were just spotlights that people were seeing. The other thing is this: even if somebody had, because my friend, because he doesn't believe that aliens that they visit the Earth, he said, even though it's completely mystifying, he can't really explain it. He says he guesses it might just be that some rich person had some spotlights outside for a party, on the northern side of where we live, and they're just goofing around with them. And because of the cloud cover, it looked like that. But looking at the video myself and those different videos as well, it looked like there were light sources above the clouds, and we were just witnessing it through the clouds. Like they weren't even that high above it, just like above that layer of clouds. That's really what it looked like. I would imagine that if it was just spotlights, that because you would have the beam of light going up from the ground to the cloud, that luminosity would have been on the underside of the cloud. But based on what I saw in the videos, the luminosity appeared to be above the clouds, right? That's the key difference. And also, I've seen videos of people, moving spotlights around, pointing them up into the night sky, and they hit the clouds. I've seen stuff like that before, and this didn't really strike me as spotlights. And even my friend had to admit that didn't. He wasn't like convinced it was just spotlights. It looked weird, right? And I can't remember his exact words, but he basically said the same thing. That this was definitely really strange and weird. And I wish I could have the clip. Maybe I can ask him to try and send it to me, and maybe I could upload it. That would be pretty cool. But I don't want to harass him for the clip. But that was pretty mind bending. If those were not spotlights, and just the way they moved in his video alone, it wasn't like spotlights. Like spotlights, even if you have like a double spotlight device, it's like you move the device like this, it might be able to scope up and down, or pan left and right, or swivel, but you're going to get certain types of movements with the lights. These looked like independently controlled lights, completely separate, that were like swooping and doing random, non-rhythmic set patterns of motion, just like random and artfully just swooping around. That didn't seem to me like spotlights. Like spotlights would be like, you can notice that they're swiveling on an axis, or they ascribe more to patterns. Like if it was a swooping like this here, yeah, it might be just spotlights. But these here, the way they're moving, it was like they're intelligently, separately controlled things above the clouds. So, anyways, that's pretty mind blowing. I haven't gone out again to go look at the sky to see what else I can see. I'm hoping that we don't start having drones flying over houses like what's been happening in New Jersey and stuff. I don't want that to happen. So, anyways, it just tells me that something big is coming. I really don't believe that these are foreign nations that have all this technology. While I don't think it's necessarily impossible that a foreign nation may have super advanced its drone technology, and maybe with unmanned drones, they're able to do some of these more fantastic things that have been caught on video. So, while I agree it's not impossible that a foreign nation could be, a little extra advanced in drone technology, I just don't believe, and even like the big shots and the authorities and this and that there in America, they've even agreed, said the same thing, that a foreign nation is not going to do a secret operation out in the open with thousands of witnesses for weeks on end, with hundreds of videos out there recording it, and have bright flashing lights to attract attention and noisy engines and whatnot that powering these different vehicles. Right? No foreign nation is going to do any type of secret operation like that. Okay, spy vehicles usually fly right up near the brink of space. They go around in stealth mode and nobody knows about them. Or you have little stealth spy drones. These are not stealth in the slightest. They're out in the open, making noise, making tons of lights and visuals, and whoever's piloting them does not give a hoot that the public is seeing it in large numbers, right? So that is not the behavior of the American government doing some type of secret operation for whatever valid reason. It's not the behavior that you would see in a foreign nation. It's obviously being controlled by some entity, right? But it cannot be an Earth nation. It's just illogical and implausible. It cannot be civilian based because these drones are so large, they would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars each, these larger ones. It is impossible that it's civilians flying all of these mystery drones around. It's pretty much been understood now that, and it's been in the news now, that the authorities in America have started to deploy their own drones, helicopters, planes, and such up into the air to monitor these things. So a good portion of what people see now and then could actually be just a military copter, plane, and whatnot, or military drone. But at the very, very start, and also up until now, we have certain of these drones that do not look or behave or even sound like any known type of human drone technology, behaving in ways that surpass any publicly known, even military drone technology, such as going in and out of the oceans with such ease, in formation and such. The high speeds and maneuvers that some of these have been seen doing, being able to stay aloft for hours or even longer, just so many things like this, and being so large and heavy. How are they powered and able to do all of these things? They must be very heavy. So it's definitely somebody, some entity that is more advanced than what the public knows about the world's militaries, right? And again, whilst it is possible that one of the world's militaries has technology like these mystery ones, it doesn't make any sense that they would do any type of operation so openly, blatantly, and obviously. It makes no sense. The government in America and the authorities have had plenty of time. They've had like a month now to come out and say, "Oh, we had to do a test operation. Please don't freak out, public." But they haven't done that. And like I've always said, in UFOlogy, everybody knows about the UFO secrecy and secrecy with UFOs. If the secrecy is needed and valid, I understand that and I can get with that. And if secrecy has been so important to maintain over these last 80 years or so, then why would they suddenly come out and do the taboo thing and suddenly just be like, "Oh, secrecy, who cares about secrecy? Let's just go out and do a secret operation or fly our secret high-tech craft or do some type of social study where we test people's reactions to unknown things." There's so many scenarios that people have put forward, scenarios that involve the government being the ones doing, or the military, you know what I mean, either or, in America being the ones behind the mystery here. But I don't think that's plausible. I don't think that America has any need logically to do an operation that is operating the way that we see this operating. Okay. And the only entity that would operate in such a bizarre way would be an entity more advanced than the human nations. Okay. Another thing is, you cannot deny that one of the biggest mysteries in all of this is why hasn't America, from day one, 4 weeks ago or whenever it was, why didn't they ever take any of the drones down? Like, why didn't they ever shoot them down or try to force them down in some way? why have they, for the whole time period, been like, we don't know what they are, but we think they're non-hostile? You know what I mean? They're violating airspace in sensitive areas, and there's such a air of confusion and flippant disregard, it appears. That's what the public perceives. It's just like the authorities and the government in America know that they're flying around because everybody sees them. But for some reason, and there's always a reason for everything, there is some reason that they haven't taken them down, as far as we know, like, and made it publicly known. Maybe they did and found out what they were and decided they didn't want to take any more down. Okay, maybe they're incapable of taking them down. We have had some testimony from authorities in America that said that they cannot take them down. They don't show up on heat sensors. They don't emit heat signals. We've known since day one that none of these mystery drones and orbs emit any type of tracking signal. The authorities have testified they don't know where the drones are coming from or where they go to, where they refuel, where they stop and rest. All of this mystery, there's reasons for all these things. The question marks aren't the only things that exist. There is an answer for all the question marks, right? And the only logical solution is that there is an entity that is more advanced than any of the human nations, and it has a reason and a motive, obviously, to be doing this operation. And the entity has chosen to not do the operation in secret, but to do it in the open. And we can perceive that so far, the operation, whatever its motive is, has been non hostile. Okay? So, going by what we've been presented and not resting on assumptions, we can tell that a more advanced entity, an entity more advanced than the human nations, has deployed this operation where they are clearly monitoring, tracking, surveying, something along those lines in that category over certain regions of the planet, but especially in America and stuff, in the coastal sides of America, but in many other places around the planet. They have some operation where they're going to fly their craft around, but not in secret. They're going to do it openly. So they're not being conceited and secretive. They're just doing it openly, but in a non threatening and non hostile manner. And if you stop and think, why would an entity do this? It would obviously and could only be based on what we're dealing with, that they don't mean any harm. That's a strong possibility. That they have our interests, our best interests at heart. They're not here for any nefarious purpose, but that something is about to happen at some point in the near or imminent future, and they're here for some reason that pertains to that big event. Okay? They might be here doing some preliminary scanning and measures just in case maybe some natural disaster or something else might happen on the earth. So just using logic, we can ascertain these things, right? It's an entity that is more advanced technologically than the other nations of the earth, than the human nations of the earth. This entity has some motive and reason to deploy hundreds of craft, mysterious craft, in full view for all the earthlings to see. And they're going to go around, like they have been, monitoring, surveying, doing whatever else it is, collecting intelligence and data. And they're doing it openly, visually, like with open arms, saying, hey, we're here. It's like if you go to the airport and you get searched by security. Everybody has to go do that. You get to the security gate, the security guard's like, oh, hello, how are you? How's your day going? I'm just going to have to grope you around here and there. No, I'm just trying to be funny. But you get to the gate and security guard's like, hey, how are you? I just got to do this. We got to, pat you down, put you through the scanner, put your bags through the scanner. Is this the process? We're collecting information and data and blah, 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 right? So obviously that's what this entity is doing. They're surveying, collecting data, but they're doing it in an open manner like that. Like, hey, we're here to survey and collect information. We're not doing it secretly. You can all see us here at the security gate. We're doing the checks. We're just checking stuff out. There you go. Non-threatening, non-hostile. That's what's taking place. And even if we don't know what their motive is, like the great secret reason why all this is happening, we can use logic to rule out what can be ruled out and be left with more plausible solutions. And I've already gone through this. I'm open to hearing other people's opinions, but I think that the most plausible solution is that a big event is coming. They're here surveying these areas for a reason, possibly to our benefit in relation to this big event that could be coming. Okay. And that's all I need to get into for this video. But this is when it struck home like this here, and people where I live started to see these things, including my good friend. You know what I mean? You just really have to ask yourself, what in the world is going on here? Because this is bonkers, right? Everybody who doesn't live in New Jersey and whatnot, you don't know what it's like to have things flying like 20, 30 feet over your house like every night. You know what I mean? That's just crazy. I hope that doesn't start where I live. But it's all happening for a reason. Okay. If they had any, whoever they are and whatever they are, if there was any nefarious intent, then they've had plenty of time to show that. Plenty of time. If they're that advanced that they can deploy out all these mysterious craft and survey and not be taken down for 4 weeks, but if they had a nefarious intent, they would have exercised nefarious behavior by now. I mean, if they're that much more advanced, why do an operation where you're fully open, collecting data? You wouldn't even waste your time. If you're that much more advanced, if it was an enemy nation and they want to take over a country or something crazy like from the movies, and they had secret craft that were, had a higher edge of technology than the rest of the nations, then they would just send in their craft to survey in secret. They wouldn't do it all out in the open. That'd be very, very simple, right? Like how you have spy jets or stealth bombers, or satellites. Many different ways they could do it instead of being out in the open. And if they were that much more advanced, where their surveying craft can't be taken down by America and the other nations, then what's the need for the dilly-dallying? Why are they waiting 4 weeks to do something? If they're that advanced, they would already know what they want to know, and they would already be acting on it. Okay? It seems like this is being long drawn out, and there's surveyings going on for a longer time. Probably, I think, because there isn't a nefarious motive underlying here. That's my point. I think it's a motive to help and to benefit us. One could only hope, anyways, right? But that's what I think it leans toward. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But that's it for now. But if you see any of these craft, let me know and give a nice little description. It's always good to have some more food for thought. But anyways, take care, folks, and God bless. And see you all later.